Real quick before the video starts, I have a new channel based around green tech stories on 4chan, and I'll be uploading videos daily over there. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to the channel in the description. Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael, and we're going to be getting right back into some more Reddit stories. If you enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Now, without further ado, let's begin. This story was posted by a user named Remarkably Proper in the Wedding Drama subreddit. The post is titled, "I stood in my partner's best friend's wedding. His wife made me wear a wig." Coming to the internet because this is a batshit insane story and I have no idea how to move forward. Any and all advice is greatly appreciated. There is a bit of backstory to cover, so apologies for the exposition. My partner Joe, a 24-year-old male, and I, a 24-year-old female, have been together for 8 years and married for just under a month. Joe's best friend Seth, a 23-year-old male, and I have known each other since before Joe and I met. About a year and a half after Joe and I started dating, Seth started seeing Mia, a 23-year-old female, and the double dates commenced. I have never been a huge fan of Mia since she is the type of person to eat 3/4 of her meal at a restaurant, then complain to the waitstaff until they comp the meal, among other things. In the summer of 2021, Seth bought a house for himself and Mia that needed a lot of work due to prior flooding. My partner and I went out there and Joe and Seth did some work on the plumbing and subfloor. A few other times, Joe went out there to help with other stuff, and by the end of 2021, Seth had the place renovated into a pretty nice house. He and Mia invited us and some of our friends from the friend group out there for a New Year's party. They have a pretty nice detached garage and pole barn situation, so they set it up with beer pong and speakers and other things, meaning people were going back and forth from the pole barn to the house. At one point, it was just Seth and me in the house mixing drinks, and he confided in me that he was not entirely happy in his relationship. He talked about how Mia called him names, laughed at him, yelled at him, and so on, and asked what he should do. I said what my partner would have said: "We have a spare bedroom if you need it." Every time we went out to Seth and Mia's house, Seth would find a way to confide these things in me. They gradually got worse too. She threw stuff at him, slammed doors so hard they would break off their hinges, things like that. Every time I reminded him we had a spare bedroom, but I could not outright tell him to leave her. It did not feel like my place to make that call. Do not get me wrong, I definitely told him he deserved better, but I wanted him to connect the dots for himself. In October 2022, while at a Halloween party, Seth showed me a picture of the engagement ring he had gotten. I do not remember much of the conversation beyond him asking if his proposal plan sounded good. I told him yes, I congratulated him, I did all the things I thought a friend should do. A month later, there were beautiful photos all over Facebook announcing the engagement and announcing that the wedding date was set for October 2023. In February 2023, Mia asked me to stand as a bridesmaid in her wedding and I was genuinely shocked. We did not talk much even at their house parties. My partner, of course, was asked to be the best man and he instantly accepted. I did not know what to say. They asked us in front of the rest of the wedding party, and I had not been expecting it at all, so I accepted too. It made me nervous thinking about it, but if that is what they wanted, then I was gonna do my damnedest to make this wedding work for them. Despite everything Seth had told me, it was not my place to cause a scene about it. In March, Mia asked me to make sure my hair was a normal color for their wedding. It is worth mentioning that at the time, my hair was a light lavender-ish color, and I am no stranger to impulsively dyeing my hair a vibrant color. I told her I would, of course, make sure it was a normal color, but she would have to tell me what color. In honesty, because my hair is always a different color, the request did not bother me much beyond lamenting having to grow out whatever color she told me to go. Things really started to hit the fan in August on the bachelorette weekend trip. The drive up was about 2 hours, and Mia spent most of it telling us about the latest wedding drama. Her parents had decided to take all of the money they had been setting aside for a wedding venue and use it to refurbish their pole barn. Mia's parents were demanding that Mia and Seth work long hours pouring concrete, putting up walls, and retiling roofs so the wedding could be held there. Mia talked about how her mother had been especially rude and condescending about the whole thing, calling her an ungrateful bitch when Mia mentioned wanting the wedding to be somewhere else. I felt so bad for her, and I felt even worse when Mia's mother, along with 8 of her friends, crashed the bachelorette weekend. We were outnumbered in this Airbnb to the point that I had to sleep on the floor. There were 9 women, all 50 or older, impeding on Mia's bachelorette weekend in the drunk the entire weekend, throwing up into the lake off the paddle boat they crammed all 9 of themselves onto kind of way. Mia had been looking forward to one of those lazy river situations where you rent a bunch of inner tubes and coast down a river and all that. The morning of, though, these women decided it should be put to a vote on whether they went, no doubt because some of them were still drunk and some were hungover, and the overall consensus was to skip the tubing, which all of the bridesmaids had already paid for, and instead hang out at the Airbnb. I grabbed a few pre-rolls from my luggage, took Mia by the arm, and sat out on the front porch with her. We talked about everything, not just the awful turnout of the bachelorette party, but everything else. I felt like we really connected out there, talking about our partners and their friendship and what it would be like when we had kids and they would have an extra aunt and uncle. For a long time, I thought Seth and Mia would be the godparents to my husband and my kids. A month before the wedding, Mia called an emergency bridal party meeting at their house. As usual, my partner and I were the first ones there. Once the rest of the bridal party arrived, minus Seth's little sister, she was left out of the bachelorette party trip too. We talked about the schedule of the day and how the bridal party would make entrances to the venue. At one point, Mia, who was quite drunk by then, pulled me aside and reminded me about the hair color. My hair at the time was split-dyed red and pink. I asked her what color she wanted me to use, and she said, "Copper would look so good on you." About a week and a half before the wedding, I went out and got a brownish copper hair dye and did the job. Since I colored my hair pretty frequently, it was not the healthiest, and I tried my best to do hair masks and stuff to make sure it was not too brittle for styling on the day of the wedding. Then, a week before the wedding, my partner proposed to me. I, of course, posted pictures all over Facebook, and my hair in the pictures was copper. The Tuesday before the wedding, Mia texted me and asked if the color of my hair in those photos was how it would be for her wedding day. I said yes and reminded her that I had asked her what color to use and she had told me copper. She denied ever telling me that and said she would never have suggested copper since my dress was cinnamon colored. She told me to send her a picture of myself wearing the dress so she could see if the colors clashed too badly. Before I could even send a photo of myself in the dress, she told me to just dye my hair an actual normal color. This turned into a massive back and forth, with me telling her that I did not have the money or time to go out and get my hair redone, and I was afraid if I dyed my hair again so soon it would break off and be even more awful. I offered to step out of frame for her pictures. I offered to have my hair up so it would not touch the dress. I offered to suggest to her photographer that they color correct my hair. Her mind was made up though. She told me she would have me wear a wig for the entire day. I told her I certainly could not afford a high quality wig and she said she would pay for it. The entire bridal party had received a text from Seth and Mia requesting that all of us be at the venue about an hour and 45 minutes drive at noon on the Friday before the wedding to help do final touches before the rehearsal dinner at 5. Of the entire bridal party, my partner and I were the only ones who showed up at noon. Everyone else did not arrive until 5 or later. We went up to Seth to greet him, and the first thing he said to us was, "Is it too late to call it off?" In proper supportive friend fashion, we told him no and reminded him of our spare bedroom. I had had a nightmare the night before of the maid of honor beating the hell out of me when she saw my hair. So when she finally showed up around 5:30 and came right up to me, I nearly pissed myself. She held out her hand and pointed to her ring finger. It dawned on me that I had indeed gotten engaged a few days prior, easy to forget considering all the other stuff going on, and I held out my hand so she could see the ring. She gushed about how beautiful it was and told me she needed to talk to me outside after the rehearsal. Fair enough. I confided in her when we stepped outside that I was terrified she wanted to beat me up, and she told me the whole story of the texts. How she had told Mia not to send them and to let her handle it. How her work friends had read all the screenshots Mia sent and thought she was taking things way too far, and so on. We talked for a long time, and at the end, she said she would check with Mia about where the wig situation stood. Before the end of the night, she pulled me aside again and confirmed that Mia wanted me to wear the wig the entire night, and that she would not settle for an updo or anything of the sort. The maid of honor then invited me to spend the night with the rest of the bridesmaids at Mia's house, which I politely declined. I was expected at a salon about an hour from my house the next morning at 8 o'clock, and I arrived at 7:45 just to be safe. The rest of the bridesmaids, along with the bride, all showed up shortly thereafter. The salon is owned by one of Mia's mother's cousins who also happened to be at the bachelorette weekend. She was one of the people puking off the side of the paddle boat. She got me into a chair before I had even set my bag down, and by 8 o'clock I had the most hideous wig slapped onto my head. She did not even style it or bobby pin it down. It took 10 minutes max. The other bridesmaids got their hair styled in super cute curls and waterfall braids, and I sat there with an unstyled, unflattering wig on my head that was not even properly covering my hairline. We got our makeup done at the salon too by a different lady. When I sat down in the chair, she asked me if I was okay because nobody was speaking to me. I asked her if the makeup was waterproof or anything, and she told me to just try my best not to cry. She ended up doing my makeup pretty quickly too, and in total I spent maybe half an hour in a salon chair. The other bridesmaids had way more time for hair and makeup, and between the way the wig looked and the fact that none of them would even look at me, I excused myself to go out to my car. I have never cried the way I did in that car. I called Joe, who was riding with the groomsmen I was going to walk down the aisle with. I tipped my head down so the tears would not leave tracks in my foundation. I screamed that I wanted to go home and that I could not keep doing this. I told him how I felt like I was back in middle school and high school being bullied, all because I did what the bride told me to do. I dyed my hair the color she told me to dye it. He reminded me that I was not standing in the wedding for Mia, but for Seth. I told him I could not even do it for Seth because Seth knew about the situation. Joe had talked to him about it, and he was not willing to stand up for me. I am not saying I expected him to stand up to his soon-to-be wife for another woman, but it does not change the fact that I could not handle the pressure and the bullying. Joe told me then that I should do it for him and that after this we would figure it out. After the ceremony, Al, the groomsman I had walked with, caught me crying. We were all supposed to be taking photos, and I could not stop thinking about how these people were supposed to be the godparents to our future kids, and they could not even stand to have me in the photos without a wig on my head. Al went into the house and came out with one of those little pocket-sized shooters of Pink Whitney for me. After dinner, I slipped out to go to the bathroom. That is, to cry a bit more and call my mom. My mom told me to take the wig off and get a ride home and that it was not worth it. I told her Mia was making me keep it on the entire night. Before she could really convince me to get the hell out of there, Joe tracked me down. He did not know what to say. He just held me for a while, then told me I had to come back because they were starting speeches. Shortly after the dancing really got going and the sun had fully set, Al started asking me if it would hurt if he yanked the wig off. I told him they had not even bothered to pin the damn thing down. I told him not to because I did not want to face the wrath of Mia. He asked me if I would rather spend the rest of the night miserable, and I shrugged a shoulder and told him to do whatever he wanted. He yanked the wig off and tossed it on one of the empty tables, then told me if Seth or Mia have any shit to say, you tell them to come say it to me. A few of the wedding guests even came up to me and said that my hair, despite being braided tightly to my head for the wig to lay on top, looked much better like this. In the days following the wedding, Mia started sharing photos on Facebook, but none of them included me. I could not tell if I was more relieved not to have to see the palpable misery on my face or furious that she had me put on a wig just to exclude my face from all the posts anyway. I fell into a horrible despair. I thought I would be relieved to be done, but instead I was left with this gaping feeling. My partner and I had just stood for his best friend and my close friend on the most important day of his life, and we had nothing to show for it. There would be no showing our kids photos from Aunt Mia and Uncle Seth's wedding day because that was not me in the photos. Even if it were, they did not bother to send us any photos from the day at any point. 2 weeks after Seth and Mia's wedding, we were hosting a Halloween party, partly as a gift to the newlyweds and partly because they usually hosted Halloween, and we wanted to give them a break. They said they would come, but the night before the party, they canceled on us. As frustrated as I was to be throwing this party for them only for them to cancel, I cannot say I was not a little relieved. I did not know how to talk to either of them after that day, and I did not want to be forced to figure it out quite yet. At the beginning of November, a month and a half after the wedding day, Joe sent Seth and Mia a message in a group chat without me in it. The message reiterated that they are always welcome at our house. We were hosting Friendsgiving at the end of November and had extended the invitation to them, but that we were both incredibly hurt by what went down with the wedding. Joe requested an apology for the hurt I was put through, especially after Mia told me to dye my hair copper, then tried to tell me she would never have said that. Mia responded that I was just mad because I did not get what I wanted, that we were asinine if we thought she would see my ugly ass hair and do anything other than throw a wig on my head, and that she would not apologize for something she is not sorry for. The following day, Seth called Joe to apologize. Apparently, he had told Mia not to send the message. He told Joe that he thought I also owed Mia an apology for taking the wig off at all. During that phone call, Seth said something along the lines of being done with the friend group, that he only wanted to hang out with Joe over all of it. The friend group, who already did not have the best impression of Mia even before all the trouble went down, was unanimously fine with that decision. The day after Seth and Joe's call, Mia sent me a one-on-one message, a novel, basically, about how she would have dyed her hair whatever color I wanted for my wedding because there are temporary colors and it would fade eventually. She also accused me of not knowing her well enough to be saying what I said about her mother back during the bachelorette trip, that I was being stuck up and so on and so forth. I typed up a response of similar length and I am proud to say I kept it civil. I reminded her that I did dye my hair the exact color she wanted, but I just refused to do it a second time in fear of frying my hair or making it look worse. I apologized for what I said about her mother, but I also told her that if I did not know her well enough to talk honestly with her about something that was deeply troubling her, I never should have been standing in the wedding in the first place. I told her that if I was stuck up, I would have taken myself home instead of still standing in the wedding party despite everything she put me through. It took 2 days for Mia to respond, and she replied with, "After processing, I feel like I owe you an apology." That was the end of the message. We expected to see them at Friendsgiving and try to smooth things over in person, but Seth texted Joe literally an hour before they were supposed to arrive and said that Mia wanted to go look at Christmas lights in a city almost 2 hours away. Joe was faced with the impossible decision as we grew closer to planning our own wedding, of whether Seth could be his best man. Ultimately, Seth made the decision for him by blocking me on Facebook and removing me from his contacts on everything. For a long time, that was it. Seth and Mia were strangers to us. We did not even invite them to our wedding. The reason I am hashing this all out now, though, is that I am left with an impossible situation and I need help. In March of this year, about 2 months before Joe and my wedding, Seth called Joe while Joe was at work and asked what had happened to them. Joe asked if he was joking, and when he realized Seth was not, he laid it all out. The wig, the non-apology, the name-calling, all of it. Apparently, Seth and Mia do not have anyone to hang out with anymore, mostly due to the way they treated me. Seth must have taken notes during this phone call or something, because a day or so later, Seth sent Joe a long apology for me. Apparently, Mia had written the apology that I needed over a year and a half ago, gave it to Seth, and Seth gave it to Joe. Joe had been looking for the right time to tell me about it. He said it sounds sort of legit, but he also admitted it sounds like Seth had written it himself. All of this is with the intention of Seth and Joe hanging out together, which, let me be clear, I never prevented. I encouraged Joe to keep up with Seth. I just did not want anything to do with him. The moment Mia had that wig put on my head, it is like she and Seth became strangers to me. So that is why I am here. I have not read the apology, and my partner said he would not blame me if I never wanted to read it. Even typing this all out is reminding me of the kind of emotional turmoil they put me through over this. What is the play? Do I read the apology? It sounds like Seth and Mia want to go back to double dating and house parties like before. Is that a possibility? I genuinely do not think I could ever look either one of them in the eye again, but do I owe it to them or to my partner to try? Update. I told my husband I am not going to read the letter. The apology is a year and a half late, and as far as I am concerned, it is a load of nonsense intended to get back to being friends with him. If they truly cared about me in this situation, they would never have called me crazy. They would have apologized the minute I expressed how hurt I was. They would not have done what they did in the first place. Joe is a huge believer in giving people room to grow and learn from mistakes. which is why he told me about the letter in the first place and did not just burn it himself. After our talk, he realizes what kind of damage it would do to me to let Seth and Mia back into our lives, even if they have grown and changed. I do not need to be their human empathy test subject. I truly hope they have become better people, but given that they are reaching back out because nobody else will be friends with them, I doubt they truly have. As for the comments, I had a lot of people asserting that the outcome of this is entirely my fault, and that I let myself be walked all over, so I deserved everything that came to me. While I do not entirely disagree, I do think that even in my long post, there is a lot of context missing. To start, Joe and Seth had been best friends for over 10 years at this point. If I caused a scene at Seth's wedding, even if warranted, I feared what it would do to their friendship. The friendship basically ended either way thanks to Seth's wife, but I digress. I wore the wig because I did not want to rock the boat. I was young and naive and did not actually think Mia would make me wear a wig until the morning of, when they were slapping a wig on my head and shooing me out of the salon chair. I had heard from Mia firsthand how much stress she was under due to the wedding and her insane mother, and I thought being a sounding board for her and being there for her would have made her have a change of heart. Instead, I became the target. She could not very well bully her mother, so she bullied me instead. There were also a lot of people calling me out about Seth pulling me aside and telling me how unhappy he was, and again, I think you are missing key context. I did not just tell him, "We have a spare bedroom for you," and leave it at that. I talked at length with him about these things. I told him that he deserved better, that he could come stay with us for as long as he needed to figure things out, and that no matter how deep the hole he dug himself felt, we were there to get him out of it. He had a house and pets with Mia. He worked with Mia's dad. She had successfully made herself a part of every piece of his life, and in our conversations, I told Seth that Joe and I could help him detach however he needed. I even told him he was being abused, especially when it came to things being thrown and doors being slammed. But Seth is of the mindset that men can never be the victims of domestic violence. I wonder if that mindset has changed by now. Point is, I said everything except outright telling him to leave Mia. Maybe that is what the comments were getting at, that I should have spelled it out like that. The day before the wedding, Seth asked if it was too late, and Joe and I told him no. We told him he could get in the car and we could drive away with no questions asked. Seth is a grown adult too. He chose what he did. Lots of people were coming after my husband as well, and I cannot lie. Seth and Mia's wedding definitely did some damage to our relationship. I left that situation feeling like no matter how many times Joe told me I was the most important person in his life, there would always be something or someone that could get in the way of that. Things were rocky for a bit. He was apologetic the moment the wedding was over, wishing he had taken the wig off my head or gone to the salon and picked me up and taken me home. Hindsight is 20/20, I guess. If either of us had known that no matter what, Seth and Mia were going to completely isolate themselves, I would not have worried so much about preserving Joe and Seth's friendship, and neither would he. At the end of it though, Joe and I have talked it through. We know where our priorities lie. The only reason he had been advocating for me to read the apology letter was for my own peace of mind and my own closure. He respects my decision to leave the note unread and leave Seth and Mia to be unhappily ever after. Lala Gia said, "Why did not the younger generation still go tubing, the activity they had paid for, on the bachelorette weekend and just leave the hungover moms behind?" Possible Pianist said, "May these type of people and their drama never find me." This next post was made in the AITA subreddit by a throwaway account. The post is titled, "I want to divorce my husband and leave him with the kid after finding out I'm not the biological mom. I cannot believe my life has come to this. All I ever do is go out of my way to help others, but on the few occasions I need help, nobody ever comes through for me. I, a 36-year-old female, have been with my husband, a 35-year-old male, for a total of almost 10 years, and we have been married for 7. We had what I thought was my child by surrogate over 2 years ago because after 4 years of trying to conceive with no success despite medical interventions, it turns out I am unable to carry a child to term. I had always wanted to be a mom. Devastated is an understatement regarding how I felt when I found out I have a medical condition that would make it nearly impossible to carry a baby to term. It was even more upsetting when I had to get major surgery to remove uterine growths with the hope of increasing fertility, and complications during surgery warranted a partial hysterectomy involving removal of my uterus only. I still had my ovaries, so we started looking into the cost of a surrogate. It is really expensive. My close friend since college, who had already had 2 kids of her own, offered to serve as the surrogate for us to cut down on costs. After 2 disappointing in vitro fertilization sessions that did not result in pregnancy, she became pregnant on the 3rd try and carried a boy to term for us. I was so happy and busy after the birth, between being a mom and returning to work after a 4-week parental leave, so I did not notice any warning signs. I should have noticed the red flags and warning signs early on, but did not because I was so exhausted from working so much at my stressful job and 2 part-time jobs to cover most of the bills and anticipated medical and legal costs associated with this friend becoming our surrogate. I was the primary breadwinner. My friend and my husband started talking more, and I would sometimes come home from my weekend job to find her already hanging out at our house when my husband was there. I chalked it up as innocuous and thought it was good for her to know my husband better since she was in the process of hopefully carrying our child for us. I was grateful to have someone helping us have a child. I also thought it was weird that our son has brown eyes when both of us have blue. Then I found out that while this is uncommon, it is sometimes possible due to many genes controlling eye color. Recently, it all came to a head when I took our son to a doctor's appointment, and they did a metabolic panel and blood test which showed that he had a blood type that is not biologically possible to have with me as his mother. He is B positive, I am A positive, and my husband is O positive. Immediately, I started worrying it was the fertility clinic's fault and that they had messed up and implanted a wrong embryo. I started lining up lawyer consultations to possibly sue the clinic and looked into having a DNA parentage test done. The test results showed that I am not the mother, but my husband still is the father. I was heartbroken and angrier than ever. I talked to lawyers about medical malpractice in the fertility clinic we had used. Then my husband confessed that he had slept with my friend, our surrogate, on a few different occasions during our struggle to have her get pregnant with our embryos. This means what I thought was our son, conceived by in vitro fertilization and carried with a surrogate, is not my son at all and was, in fact, conceived the old-fashioned way, which I cannot ever do. Livid and absolutely broken at the same time, do not even begin to describe how I feel. I have been breaking down into crying spells over and over again because of this. He claims he never thought pregnancy could result because he pulled out, and he had always assumed that he was the reason for our earlier struggles to conceive, both before my hysterectomy and during the IVF insemination process with this friend. I felt an immediate triple betrayal from what was supposed to be my husband, my friend, and now knowing my child is not even really mine. I had such white-hot rage and delirium that I immediately left home and stayed at a hotel for almost a week before asking my parents to let me stay at home for a while. I admit I left our son with him. I am now filing for divorce because he cheated and betrayed me in the worst possible way. I have also cut off my friendship with my friend, the surrogate, and feel afraid to trust anyone else now. I have seen a divorce lawyer to explore giving up my legal rights to this child so I do not have to face such betrayal or owe child support. My husband and the friend surrogate admit they were wrong and keep apologizing, but also called me immature and heartless for just giving up on my son like that. My parents also say I cannot just give up on a child that I went through so many legal and medical hoops to have. When I told them I refused to stay in a cheating marriage and that I would rather adopt someday with a better, more trustworthy partner, they also told me I was wrong and that maintaining my parental rights is not much different than if I adopted outright. They said it is not blood that makes a family. They are all about me divorcing my cheating husband, but keep telling me I am making a mistake by giving up my parental rights. Some of my other friends agree with what I am doing. A few admitted they were not big enough to swallow their pride and care for an affair baby, or to see daily reminders of my friend surrogate's betrayal every time they look at her son. I just want a clean break and a fresh start. I am also considering relocating several states away. Am I the asshole for giving up my parental rights in the divorce because a child I paid a lot of money to have born by surrogacy is not biologically mine at all, but the surrogates? 5 months later, OP provided us an update in the comment section. I am low on time right now, but we'll be posting a separate update later. I am not staying and I am not caring for him anymore. I was not even offered a choice in the matter at all, which is why I have kept telling myself I should not want to, compared myself to men in a similar type of parentage situation, and have remained aloof toward the boy I thought was mine. I have no legal rights anymore no matter what, because she fought to get her son back. I am actually a lot more upset about losing this child than I presented in my post, and I am realizing this more and more with each passing day. The choice was not mine, and I lost. I posted that I would not want to be the sucker raising someone else's child as more of a coping mechanism than anything else. She got to have her kid, he left me, and I am stuck with nothing. Grumpy G said, "What a shitty mess. Poor OP." Cow Objective said, "Well, it is a classic case of a husband who finds out that his son is not his and decides to abandon him. Curious if his objective was to prove a gender bias. He certainly achieved it. Interesting." Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video, and thank you also to partner of the channel, Gamersupps. Use code DLAM to support the channel and get 10% off of your purchase, link in the description. I'm sure many of you like me have a hankering for daily caffeine, so go check them out. Lately, I've been a big fan of Titty Milk and Acid Rain, but they've got dozens of other flavors for y'all to try out. Anyway, thanks again for reaching the end, and I hope you all have an amazing passage of the next 24 hours.